This is lesson 5 of the sound topic entitled Echoes and Ultrasound. And by the end of the lesson you should be able to tell me what ultrasound is and be able to give some uses of ultrasound. Before we start today, I thought you might like to watch a little bit of a fun video. You can access it using the direct link here if you're following the PowerPoint. If you're following the video, you will have to type that into your browser. It's difficult to find just by typing in dancing baby. So pause the video now and have a look. Hope you enjoyed that. The video was made using ultrasound, but what exactly is ultrasound? Okay, this needs to go in your exercise book, so can you put the title, What is Ultrasound? Ultrasound is any sound that is too high in pitch for humans to hear. So in other words, sounds that have a frequency greater than 20,000 Hertz. Remember, the range of human hearing was between 20 and 20,000 Hertz. So anything beyond that 20,000 is what we call ultrasound. You might like to make a copy of the diagram that we've got here. It doesn't need the triangle. You could do a single line here, just indications of where ultrasound begins and where infrasound finishes. Now, infrasound is something we don't have to study on the course, but for your information, it's sounds which are below 20 Hertz. So ultrasound, sounds which are above 20,000 Hertz, too high for us to hear. Infrasounds, sounds which are too low for us to hear, below 20 Hertz. Okay, could you pause the video and make a note of the slide? The next thing we're going to look at is how that picture is actually produced using sound waves. So again, this needs to be in your notes. All you need is the bullet points here. This used to be on the question paper. So first off, ultrasound is sent into the patient's body via something called an ultrasound transducer. So that has to make contact with the woman's belly, and ultrasound waves are then sent in heading towards the baby. Now, at each boundary between different tissues or organs, some of the ultrasound is reflected. So let's suppose that some of those ultrasound waves make it as far as the baby. When they get to the baby, we've got a change in density, higher density, and some of those ultrasound waves will be reflected back towards the transducer. Now, the depth of each layer, or the distance, if you like, from the transducer to the baby, can be calculated using the time taken for each reflected wave to return. So if it only takes a very short amount of time for the ultrasound to go there and back, we know that the baby is closer to the transducer than if it took a longer time. The reflected waves, or echoes, are then usually processed to produce a picture of the inside of the body onto a screen. Now, whilst humans need computers to do calculations, to echolocate something, as it's so called, creatures like bats and dolphins use ultrasound and a process called echolocation to catch their food, and in the case of bats, to find their way around. They do this in the similar way into which an ultrasound machine works. They send out a burst of ultrasounds, like a pulse. They then wait for the echo to return. Their brain then does a sort of calculation to work out how far the object is away. And again, the further away the object, the longer it takes for the ultrasound to return. So bats and dolphins have this sort of inbuilt into their brain. If the echoes return quickly, they know that the object in front of them is very close. If it takes longer, they know that the object is further away. Finally then, for your notes, how can ultrasound be used to calculate a distance? So again, on the exam paper there's a question which asks you to calculate a certain distance using information from echolocation. So if you look at the situation we've got there, we've got a bat which is sending out these waves here, these ultrasound waves in red. They're hitting an object and then reflected back. These are the green waves here. Now, the distance that the ultrasound travels can be calculated using distance equals speed times time. So if the speed of sound, ultrasound is no different to ordinary sound in terms of its speed, is 340 meters per second, and it takes 0.1 seconds to get there and back, then the distance travelled by that sound wave is 340 times 0.1, which is 34 meters. However, the ultrasound has to go there and back, so the actual distance that the bat here is from the object is only half that 34 meters, which gives you 17 meters. Okay, you should now be able to explain that ultrasound is any sound above the range of human hearing, i.e. above 20,000 Hz. You should be able to recall that ultrasound can be used in ultrasound scans and by animals to help echolocate, either it's to help them find their way around or to find their prey.